combining what we did before Thanksgiving with equations, now with inequalities, which is what we did yesterday. So if I were to change this greater than sign to an equal sign, what would that look like? No, like if I just replaced this and did 8x equals 16. That's an equation. So all we've done is we've swapped out our sign, but we're still going to solve them the exact same way we did equations. So this is 8 times x is greater than 16. So how do I undo a multiplication equation? Division. So what number do I want to get rid of? 8. Remember, it's always the one that's with your variable. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8. Remember, guys, you aced this quiz. Okay? This cancels out. X now is greater than 2. You're doing the same exact thing we did with equations. You just now have a different sign. Got it? Okay. So instead of now it's saying x equals 2, it's now x is greater than 2. Now here's the lovely thing. I'm not making you check them, and here's why. Let me explain to you why. If I were to plug this in to check it, it would tell me 8 times 2, which is 16, is greater than 16. That's not a true statement. Because what I'm saying is my value of x has to be greater than 2. It can't be 2. So it could be 3. Anything above it. So when we check inequalities, we don't always get a true statement. So I'm not going to make you go back and check them. Okay? Only with equations will we get a true statement. The next thing I want to do is graph this. So I'm going to do a few numbers before, a few numbers after. And looking at this, will I have an open or closed circle on 2? Open. Because it's not equal to. And do I shade in to the left or the right? To the right, because I want everything greater than 2. I'm shading in everything greater than 2. Okay? What type of inequality is this? Somebody's about to say it. What sign is this?
Minus.
It's a subtraction inequality. How do I undo subtraction?
Addition.
And what number do I want to get rid of? 9. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. That leaves h. And 13 plus 9 is 22. Now, very important. When I'm to this point, what do I have to do? What did we say yesterday? I've got 22 is greater than h. What do I need first?
20. So
I need my variable first. I've got to flip it. So this turns into h is less than 22. And look how this says the same thing. 22 is greater than h. H is less than 22. Okay? So now I can graph it. The only time you're going to flip your inequality is if your number is first. You always want your variable first. Okay, is that an open or closed circle? Open, because it's not equal to. And don't look at this original one, look at the flipped one. Which way do we shade in? To the left. I want everything less than 22. And there's a reason I'm asking you the same 3 questions over and over. I want you thinking those questions when you're going through and solving it. Or there's about 4 questions, actually. In a second, we will, yeah. All right, so what type of inequality is this? Hang on. It's division. So we undo it by multiplying. What number do I want to get rid of?
3.
So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. So the questions I've asked so far is, what type is it? It's division. How do we undo it? By multiplying. What number do we want to get rid of? And the number you want to get rid of is always the one that's with your variable. So this cancels out. R is greater than or equal to 15. Good. Now, when we graph it, put a few numbers before, a few numbers after. Do I have an open or closed circle? Closed, because look, it has that equal to line. So we do a closed circle. And which direction do we shade in? To the right. All right, yes, what was your question?
So, why do you always do the circle in the direct middle?
It doesn't have to be. Whenever I'm doing my graphs, I just usually do a couple of numbers before and after, but it does not have to be in the exact middle. You could put, honestly, we could have put 15 down here and shaded in the entire number line. It's fine. For me, I like to have a few before and a few after. Yeah. But as you noticed on some of your problems from yesterday, they weren't in the middle. And this one's not technically in the middle. But yeah, it doesn't have to be. All right. I'm going to freeze the screen real quick. You guys try number 4. I'm going to work it out. And then we'll check. No, I'm not pausing it. I'm just going to freeze the screen.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, it is still recording while the screen is frozen. So quickly and quietly work on number 4. Yes. All right, when you think you've got it, just look back up here so I kind of know when we're ready to check it. All right, before I uncover mine, what type of inequality is this? Addition. So we undo it with?
Subtraction.
And what number do we want to get rid of? 18. So you should have n is greater than 2. And then when we graph it, you should have an open circle because it's not equal to 2. And then everything shaded in greater than 2. How we feel? Okay, so.
I did the wrong one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did 6.
Oh, okay. All right, let's look at number 5. Okay, what type of inequality is this? Multiplication. How do you undo multiplication? Division. And what number do we want to get rid of? 4. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. This cancels out. And 12 divided by 4 is? 3. Now, when I'm to this point, what do I have to do before I can graph it?
Flip.
I've got to flip it because I always want my variable first. So 3 is less than or equal to b. It's going to turn into b is greater than or equal to 3. And do a couple of numbers before. Do I have an open or closed circle? Closed. And which direction do we shade in?
Left.
Be careful. Go back and look at this last one. Yes. You're going to shade into the right. Everything greater than 3. You're going to have plenty to do on your own in a minute. Yes. Which one to cancel out? Okay, so if we look at this, it's always going to be the number that's with your variable. So whatever number is on the same side of the inequality with your variable, that's the one you're going to cancel out. So if I look at this, this is subtraction. How do we undo subtraction? Addition. And the 8 is the one that's with my variable. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. And that's how we cancel whatever number that is out. You do the opposite of that. Yes?
Which, if a variable or a number goes first? I know variables goes first.
Oh, whatever side it's on, just keep it balanced. Come straight down. Yeah. So like this one over here, all we had were numbers on this side, and your variable was over here, but here my variable just comes straight down. So as long as you keep it lined up and bring everything straight down, it should stay where it needs to. So yeah, J is less than or equal to 17. And we graph it. Closed dot, you are correct. And which way do I shade? To the left. And don't forget to do your arrow, because that arrow does show that that continues on indefinitely. Any questions so far? Yes. Oh, the dot? Okay. So yesterday when we talked about, and it's okay because you weren't here. It's good. So this sign means less than or equal to. So when we are including that number, we want it shaded in completely. That means that we are counting 17 as part of the solution. When it's just, let me find one up here. See how this one is just greater than? It does not include 2. Then you're going to have an open dot. So your closed dot will only be there when you have the line underneath your sign, because that means or equal to. That means that can include that number. If the or equal to part is not there, it's going to be an open dot. So like on this one, this says n divided by 6 is less than 2. So whatever solution we get, it's not going to be included because it's just less than. It's not less than or equal to. You have to have that little line underneath it to include that number. And I'll talk you more through it on this one when we get to that point. What type of inequality is this?
That is division.
Division. How do we undo division?
Multiplication.
Okay, and what number do we get rid of? 6. So we're going to multiply both sides by 6. Okay, so this cancels out. N is less than 12. Now, at this point, when we start graphing it, this is when we make the decision about the open or closed dot. Because there is no line underneath that, it doesn't mean, like my variable cannot be equal to 12. It has to be less than 12. It could be 11.99, but it cannot be 12. So we don't include 12, so we leave that with an open circle. And which way?
Left.
To the left. We want to shade in everything less than 12. Does that help a little bit? Okay. Okay, and the last one, number 8. It is what type?
Addition.
It's subtraction, so how do we solve it? Addition. And what number do we get rid of? 10. So we add 10 to both sides. Cancels out. What have we got to do to this one? We got to flip it because we got our number first. So right now this reads 16 is less than or equal to k, and we want it to say k is greater than or equal to 16. And do you see how these two say the same exact thing? It's just written in an opposite. Yes?
Why can't you do it 16 is less than or equal to k?
Because when we graph it, we're graphing it based on where k would be, not where 16 is. Yeah. I mean, we could graph it this way, but you're going to have to read it backwards, and then I'm afraid it would mess you up because you're saying k is greater than or equal to 16. So you're saying the same thing. It's like me saying my son is taller than me, and I'm shorter than my son. See how it says the same thing? It's whoever's perspective, and you want it from your variable's perspective, okay? All right, so 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, open or close circle? Close, because it's equal to, and which way do we shade in?
Right.
To the right. Very good. All right, any other questions so far? Okay, flip to the back. I want to show you how to set up your number line because they're not drawn for you. Okay? And guys, this is one of those things, the more you practice, the more confident you are. And they don't take you a tremendous amount of time, so don't fret that you have 12 problems to do. All right, this is addition. How do I undo addition? So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So k is greater than 3. Now, because there's no line drawn, you just draw a line. I do about 4 or 5 marks. And I do a couple of numbers before. And a couple after. And would that be an open or closed dot? Open. And which way do we shade in? To the right. So just because you don't have a number line drawn, don't worry. It won't be hard. Just draw, put a couple of slashes, and then graph from that point.
That's not very hard.
It's not very hard at all. All right. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay.